200, 230, 240, 283.2.
It's almost impossible to believe, but the deeper you dig, the more you realize this isn't just a coincidence, it's a pattern. A pattern of quiet whispers in the industry, of people who once stood tall suddenly disappearing, of friendships that looked unbreakable crumbling overnight, and when you trace those lines back, they all seem to intersect at the same places, the same events, the same hidden rooms where the cameras weren't rolling. It's the kind of thing that makes you stop and wonder how much of what we think we know is actually true. How much has been carefully scripted for us? While the real story plays out behind velvet ropes and locked doors, there are names people are scared to even mention aloud, because doing so could mean losing everything: your career, your reputation, your safety. And yet, there are those rare moments when someone breaks, when the pressure becomes too much, and they let something slip, just a sentence, a look, a hesitation, and suddenly the curtain moves an inch, enough for you to catch a glimpse of what's really going on. Enough to make you realize that what you thought was the top of the ladder might just be the first step into something much darker. People think the entertainment industry is all about talent, beauty, and hard work. But the truth, those are just the entry fees. The real currency is power, and the kind of power that doesn't play fair. Deals are made that never make it into the news, deals sealed with promises, secrets, and sometimes with silence bought at a price you can't even imagine. And once you're in, there's no clean way out. Some try, most fail, a few, well, they vanish both in public and in spirit. You can almost hear it in their voices during certain interviews, the subtle pauses, the careful choice of words, the way their eyes flicker as if calculating just how much they can say without crossing a line. They've seen things they wish they could forget. They've been in rooms where the air felt too heavy, where laughter didn't sound quite right, where smiles hid something sharp and dangerous underneath. And the scariest part, the higher up you are, the more you see, and the harder it becomes to pretend you didn't. Some people think scandals just happen, that they're random explosions of drama. But what if they aren't? What if some of them are planned, controlled, timed to the exact moment when they'll cause the most distraction? What if while everyone's watching the chaos, something far more important is happening in the shadows, completely unnoticed? That's the part no one wants to believe, because if it's true, then everything changes. Every headline you've read, every shocking leak, every feud might not be what it seemed at all. And then there's the fear, a kind of fear that doesn't fade even after you've left the stage, signed the last contract, or closed the final deal. Because the people who control these games aren't just powerful, they're untouchable. Or at least, they want you to think they are. And that's when the reality began to sink in for everyone watching from the outside. This wasn't just about a celebrity feud or a music industry disagreement anymore. This was unraveling into something much darker, something that hinted at years of hidden pain, betrayal, and manipulation. The casual posts, the cryptic captions, the sudden unfollows, they all seemed like harmless social media drama at first. But behind the scenes, the tension had reached a boiling point. The silence from certain people who once couldn't stop talking spoke volumes. Friends started picking sides. Industry insiders whispered about conversations that had been going on for months, even years, all pointing to the same chilling truth. This conflict didn't start today, and it's nowhere near over. Every little move, every public appearance, was now being dissected, analyzed, and connected to an invisible timeline of betrayal. And while most of the public was just catching up to the story, those closest to it knew that the events now making headlines were only the tip of the iceberg. There were moments, private ones, that had been carefully kept out of the public eye for a reason. Moments that could completely flip the narrative and shatter the image people thought they knew. But the thing about secrets is that they have a way of slipping through the cracks. Now we're seeing the aftermath play out in real time, the guarded statements, the carefully crafted denials, and the sudden flood of anonymous leaks that seem to conveniently appear at just the right time. The entire situation feels like a high-stakes chess game, where every move is strategic and every misstep could be catastrophic. And yet, beneath the calculated moves, there's a raw human element that makes it impossible to look away. The heartbreak, the sense of betrayal, the realization that trust has been shattered beyond repair. The scary part, those closest to the situation are saying that what we've seen so far is nothing compared to what's still hidden. And if even half of the whispers are true when it all finally comes out, it won't just change the way people see the individuals involved. It could shake the entire industry to its core. Because sometimes, the biggest scandals aren't about what's said publicly, they're about what's been kept quiet for far too long, and in this case, the truth might not just hurt, it could destroy. And as the world watches the tension between these two forces, the crumbling legacy of one of Hollywood's most powerful figures, and the relentless rise of voices demanding accountability, reaches a boiling point. What once was whispered in private is now shouted from every corner of the internet. Leaked court documents, audio tapes, and insider accounts are pulling the curtain back on a hidden empire, built on manipulation, intimidation, and indulgence, that many thought would never see the light of day. This is no longer about gossip or rumor. It's about the unraveling of a system that has protected powerful men for decades. The stories pouring in aren't just shocking, they're heartbreaking. Friends, former collaborators, and even family members are revealing moments they kept buried for years, moments that could not only destroy reputations, but also change the way we view some of the biggest names in the entertainment industry. The deeper we go, the more we realize this isn't just one man's scandal. It's a web that stretches across Hollywood, the music industry, and politics, tying together people you'd never expect to see in the same sentence. Alleged cover-ups, private recordings, and coded messages are all beginning to paint a picture far darker than the public ever imagined. What's even more disturbing is that many of these accusations involve events that took place behind the closed doors of luxurious mansions, private islands, and secret gatherings, places that were supposed to be exclusive, glamorous, and untouchable. But behind the flashing lights and red carpets, a shadow world existed. One where careers could be made or destroyed with a single favor, where silence was bought, and where fear kept the truth hidden for years. Now, that silence is breaking. Whistleblowers are stepping forward, risking everything, their safety, their reputations, and even their lives to tell the truth. And as more pieces of this puzzle come together, it becomes clear the downfall we're witnessing is not a coincidence. It's the result of years of hidden resentment, suppressed evidence, and a growing public refusal to look the other way. Hollywood has always been a place where stories are told, but this time the story isn't scripted, and there's no happy ending in sight. What happens next could redefine power in the entertainment world forever. It was in that very moment when the first rumor broke that everything began to spiral out of control. Friends who had once laughed together now avoided eye contact. Conversations that used to flow effortlessly were replaced with whispers in the corner. The people who once stood proudly beside the names involved suddenly distanced themselves, terrified of being pulled into the storm, and the truth, it was still buried, still hidden under layers of denial, fear, and calculated silence. But those who knew, those who had been in the rooms where the real conversations happened, could feel that the silence wouldn't last forever. The thing about secrets is that they have a heartbeat. They live and breathe in the shadows. But over time, they grow restless, and when they've been caged too long, they force their way into the light, no matter who gets destroyed in the process. That's exactly what began happening here. One small leak, one whispered name, and suddenly, the dam holding it all back started to crack. What made this scandal different from the usual celebrity gossip was how deep it went. This wasn't just about one mistake or one bad choice. This was a web, a carefully crafted network of relationships, favors, and silent agreements that stretched far beyond the public eye. And when just one thread was pulled, the whole structure threatened to unravel. Names we never expected to be connected started surfacing. Footage that was never meant to be seen began to circulate in the shadows. And then came the testimonies, not in courtrooms, not in official statements, but in private, hushed confessions. People who had stayed silent for years suddenly couldn't hold it in anymore. The fear that had kept them quiet was being replaced by something stronger. The need for the truth to be known. One by one, voices began to speak up. Each account was different, but together they painted a chilling picture of what had really been going on. The most shocking part, the evidence didn't just implicate one person. It suggested that some of the most respected and powerful figures in the entertainment world might have known and chosen to stay silent.